Hello, everyone. This is Sophia Fouquet. I'm the Pick Click Give Program Manager here at the Alaska Community Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited to maximize our online and social media efforts, not only for Pick Click program, for our fundraising and donor engagement goals in general. So today we are going to be taken away by David Harper, who is the Digital Marketing Director of Brilliant Media Strategies, and we're really excited to have him on the line. Before we dive into it, I just want to let everyone know that everyone is welcome to ask questions using the chat box. We are going to do our best to answer all of those during the Q&A at the end of the presentation, so we won't stop unless it's really, really important during David's presentation, but we will make sure to answer all the questions afterwards during the Q&A. So that being said, again, if you do have any questions for the group or privately, you can use your chat box to ask them, and we're going to turn it over to David Harper to let us know how we can maximize our online and social media efforts. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Sophia. As Sophia said, my name is David Harper. I'm the Digital Marketing Director at Brilliant Media Strategies, a full-service advertising agency in Anchorage that's actually celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. I've been working in online and social media for over a decade now, previously with GCI and now in the agency front for 6 years. So I've worked on clients of all varieties, including Pick, Click, Give for the last 2 years. And so we're going to be going through how exactly you can maximize your online and social media efforts. So to start, I want to talk about making the most of our time together. This presentation largely is a tool to assist with your Pick, Click, Give fundraising campaign. Our goal is for you to walk away from this training feeling more prepared to acquire new donors. We know that's super important, but not to be forgotten is retaining the donors you have. The only way you can grow your audience is if you keep the one you already have. So that's going to be a super important part of this. And also increasing the gift amounts from current donors. So trying to maintain awareness from the existing donors, but also getting them to recognize your value more so they'll donate more through Pick, Click, Give. So before we get into all the details, I wanted to address a big thing, which is the marketing problems you face as a nonprofit. A lot of people aren't necessarily aware of what you face, but we certainly are. One of the big things is the lack of time. Typically, a lot of nonprofits are smaller operations. You don't have time to do every single thing you possibly can to promote your nonprofit and Pick, Click, Give and getting donations through there. There's also a lack of money. Everyone would love to have a massive television buy or a massive radio buy or anything else. The problem is those are cost prohibitive, and sometimes it can be difficult to afford that. And lastly, it's a lack of expertise. You might not know how to shoot in HD a 30-second television spot to run before the Super Bowl, but there might be other things you know a little bit better. And that's one of the advantages of online and social media. We're going to go through those. One of them, it's cost effective. Your cost on online and social media typically, unless you're dealing with a larger outfit like Hulu or something of that sort, is going to be basically pay what you want. So if you only have $50 to promote your company or your nonprofit, you can do that. And also it's extremely cost effective and efficient in your spends, meaning you can reach a lot of people for a limited cost. We were talking about lack of expertise. One of the nice things is if you've used social media, you largely understand the tenets of how social media works. If you can post on your own Facebook, you can post on your nonprofit's Facebook page. That's huge. Potential reach, we're going to talk about this a lot more, but there aren't social media and online media can reach more people than any television station, radio station, newspaper, or anything else in Alaska. People use them an obscene amount, and a wide mix of people use them. So it's tremendous for the amount of people you can potentially reach. Targeting capabilities. Not only can you reach a lot of people, but you can figure out exactly who you want to reach and then target them with the tools that groups like Facebook and Google and everyone else has to offer. And then also theoretical impact. The really nice thing about online and social media is it's typically amplifying what already works the best out of marketing, and that's word of mouth. For social media, the really nice thing about it is it's just an extension of word of mouth. It's having people sharing messages about something they care about with their actual friends. This is just leveraging that. And online media does that roughly the same thing, but it's just better. It's just a good way to reach people in a mass amount. So we're going to talk about three things, the three steps on how to maximize your digital efforts. Step one is figuring out who your audience is. With digital, one of the more important things is, as I said, you can target people in a very specific manner. So knowing who you want to target is essential to reaching the right people. So why is this so important? It helps you better focus your advertising and content on both acquiring new donors and retaining existing ones. It aids in deciding which outlets are the best for your nonprofit. If you're a nonprofit who for some reason is specifically targeting 12 to 17-year-olds, Snapchat's probably the right way to go. But for almost any other demographic, it's probably not the right way to go. So it's really about, it helps you figure out which outlets are the best bang for your buck, so you're not wasting your time or your money. It also, like I said, saves you time and money while maximizing donations from what you spend. So it's important to figure out who your audience is, because it can greatly impact the ability you have to reach people and then, generating donations from them through Pick, Click, Give. So how exactly do you find out who your audience is? It's easy to talk about the benefits. It's more difficult to actually do that. Number one, use existing data. You probably have a good idea as to who the types of donors you normally have are. The type of people who are likely to donate to you directly are probably the same types who will donate to you through Pick, Click, Give. So just paying attention to who you already have donating to is essential. Another tool you can use is if you have a Facebook page, Facebook at the top of every page has a little tab that says Insights, and it will tell you you can go in there and see the demographics of the people who already like your page. So you can see, what percentage is X age, which percentage is Y age, what percentage is male, which percentage is female, where they're from. This will help you get, it's not the same as who is entirely, who we know for sure is going to donate, but it's a good tip on how to figure that out. Oh, am I breaking up?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. All right, so anyways, next step, sorry, I gotta get back to the presentation. You can use Facebook's Audience Insights, which is available if you go onto your page, and then in the top left corner, it's gonna give you like a little hamburger type thing that will allow you to click on that and then click on Audiences. Hold on one second, I'm receiving a bunch of, sorry, I was getting messages. So it'll allow you to go in and you can look at the demographics of similar nonprofits. So, or just nonprofits in general. If you wanted to look at the demographics of the people who like United Way's page, for example, or the demographics of who likes American Cancer Society's page, you can go in there and you can get a rough estimate as to how their demographics break down, where those likes come from, et cetera, et cetera. And if there are similar nonprofits to you, this will help you get additional insight into what your demographics might look like. And then lastly, you can use a survey to directly learn from your supporters. I recommend using MailChimp or Constant Contact. Personally, I suggest, or not MailChimp, excuse me, using SurveyMonkey. It's free up to a point, and you're not looking to get every fact ever from a person, but it'll help you get insight into who your supporters are if you can share that with people via social media or your newsletter or whatever. But it's a good way to understand who your audience is. Next way to maximize your digital efforts is to build lists. What I mean by building lists is like developing a list of emails and phone numbers and names of people who are supporters, particularly emails and phone numbers. Why is this important? Email marketing is incredibly effective, so if you can have a robust email marketing list to work off of, this will allow you to use email marketing to reach out to people with important messaging about what you do and how they can donate to you through Pick, Click, Give and what the value of that is. It also helps target advertising better, particularly retention-based campaigns. If you have an idea of who's already donating, you can make sure that you can have social media ads, Google ads, and other types of advertising that can use lists to reach those people to encourage them to donate again this year. That's tremendously powerful. Like I said, it's impossible to grow your audience unless you keep the audience you already have. So this is a really great way to do that. It also can be used you can take these lists and you can use them to find new high probability audiences. By that, I mean, if you do load one of these lists into Facebook, Facebook will allow you, after you load it in their what they call custom audiences platform, basically what they'll let you do is you can also create what they call a lookalike audience off of that list. So what they'll do is they'll find all the characteristics, they'll look into people's profiles, find common characteristics between them, map them out, and then create a model of people who live in the state or wherever you like that potentially could be, they have commonalities with the people who are already donating. They seem like high probability targets. You can then target those people with ads on Facebook. So that's another reason why lists are hugely important. And because of all those things, it creates more efficient spends with better results. If you're hitting people that you know are going to potentially donate to you through Pick, Click, Give, or wherever, you're more likely to generate better responses. So you're not spending more money to reach more people. You're spending the right amount of money to reach the right people. So how do you build lists? Create a sign-up form on your website. If you have email marketing or if you use email marketing, you probably already do this. I recommend having it front and center on your front page of your site so people know to sign up because it's such a powerful tool. If you share it regularly, your email sign-up page on social media, directly link it to it. People can sign up, and it's just a great way for them to discover what you have to offer. Use Facebook's lead generation ads. In Facebook's ad platform, they have, if you go into objectives, it'll say lead generation ads. These ads are very cost effective at getting more people to sign up for email newsletters. And you can use your existing list to target the right people using custom audiences and lookalike audiences. So this is a great way to grow that list. And then also, the world is a big place. There's physical space, not just digital space. Create a sign up form for events. If you host an event, make sure people have the opportunity to sign up for your email or for your list, either by email or phone number. Lastly, step 3 on how to maximize your digital efforts. Don't try and do everything. Doing everything is the most common mistake I see for small businesses, in that they try and do everything because there's so many cool things that people do on the internet these days. And if you're a nonprofit and you're busy and you're a small operation, you can't do everything. And if you try to do everything, you just end up doing a lot of things poorly. So, when I say that, like, you could choose to do Facebook, you could choose to do Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google+, YouTube, Tumblr, Snapchat, Google Ads, Pandora, Spotify, Hulu, ADN, KTUU. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's new digital avenues and social networks opening every day. And so you have to cut through the noise and make sure you find the things that work best for you. So the 3 best, that's why I always recommend to people, like, first off, you have to figure out your audience so you can find what the right network or options are for you. But for me, the 3 best options to maximize value for your time and money, just in a general statement, are Facebook, Google Ads, email marketing, and newsletters. We're going to get into why for each of those, but largely speaking, it's because they have the broadest audiences and the most effective tools on how to reach people, or they have the best response. Those 3 things are essential to making sure that you don't waste your time or money. So Facebook's advantages: everyone uses it regardless of location or demographics, with roughly 570,000 users in Alaska. And one thing that I do want to note, that's just Facebook. If you use Facebook's advertising platform, it also allows you to advertise on Instagram, even if you don't have a profile on there, which ensures that I think you get up to 590,000 users in Alaska, which is the majority of the state. Nothing can touch that as far as advertising goes, besides maybe Google. So this gives you the broadest reach you can possibly get. That's massive. Not only that, but it has the highest usage of any social network. Of course, that changes across demographics, but in terms of the people who spend the most money, Facebook has the highest usage rates of any social network. The average person uses it 5 times a day at 35 minutes in total. Especially with the way mobile has been adopted, people just check it constantly. So you're not only getting these people, like getting this massive reach, but you're reaching them on a place that they are constantly at. It also has the best advertising options and targeting tools. Facebook offers a wide array of objectives you can use for advertising. You can use it for video. You can use it for broad reach ads. You can, like I said, advertise on Instagram, all kinds of places. It also has these targeting tools. Like I said, you can use lists. You can target based off of demographics. Their locations actually go so specific that you can drop a pin on a specific address. It's not even saying cities. You can target neighborhoods. You can target by zip code. You can target by anything you can basically imagine. So beyond that, there's also interest and behavioral targeting. So if you want to target people who, through their actions on social media, have indicated that they are charitable, that people who donate to charities regularly, then you can actually target based off of that. You can also target based off of income levels. There's all kinds of different ways you can target. And it's arguably the hub of the entire internet, which I think I already covered, but it's true. A lot of people, the first place they go every single day is they wake up and they grab their phone and they open Facebook. Just a quick look at Facebook's audience. As you can see, Facebook dominates all the other social networks, according to a study by Pew, Internet Research, across every demographic. Like I said, Snapchat actually has a higher audience for 12 to 17-year-olds, but largely that's not super impactful audience for you. So if you're looking for the people who actually spend money or donate to charities, these audiences are all over Facebook. And like the idea that young people are abandoning Facebook is partially true in the sense that maybe they use it less often than they used to. However, they still have accounts and they still use it on the regular. And so I wouldn't be concerned about missing out on young people just because of some stigma that Facebook's losing them. As you can see, 18 to 29-year-olds, 88% of US or Americans with internet access use Facebook. And that's an incredible, incredible figure. So what you need to know about Facebook, from a posting standpoint, it's important that you realize that the content you see on Facebook, like when you go on your own Facebook page, the newsfeed, the content you see on Facebook is governed by its newsfeed algorithm. That sounds fancy, but what does that mean? It means the algorithm is built on what you indicate you like through your actions on Facebook. So Facebook decides what you see on your own newsfeed by what you like, what you comment on, what you share, what pages you like. Even when you're scrolling on your phone, and if you stop to like look at a video for 10 seconds instead of just the normal half a second, they will indicate that as some level of interest, and they will keep that, they'll factor that into their algorithm as that is something that you like to see. So the algorithm dictates what you do or don't see on your Facebook newsfeed. This is why getting people to engage with your content, your posts, is so important on Facebook. Facebook wants to show you more of what they believe you like, and you indicate that through all those actions. So what you want to do is you want to create content on your own nonprofit page that people like, that people engage with. And if you do that, then you're going to be able to reach a lot more people. So best practices for posting on Facebook. I always tell people to follow a schedule. Facebook recommends posting 5 to 7 times a week. So making sure that you follow a schedule is essential because Facebook favors pages that post regularly in their algorithm, but also people believe that there's some level of predictability to your scheduling, and so they'll know to see that content. Always include photos or video, or, I mean, even going Facebook Live. Facebook Live is extremely valuable because Facebook wants to push it like crazy. But generally speaking, Facebook finds that photos have 50% more, or posts with photos have 50% more reach than posts with just text, and video towers above even photos. So video as much as possible. Facebook is really pushing that. But when you do post video, always post it directly to Facebook. Don't like share a YouTube link, because Facebook's algorithm does not like Google. Their algorithm basically dictates that if you post a link from Google, that they're going to limit the reach as much as humanly possible. So upload it directly. Keep posts brief. I know Twitter is the one that's more famous for having short posts, but Facebook recommends, there's been some massive studies that basically show that the best amount of characters you can have in terms of reach is somewhere between 40 and 70 characters. That's not very much, and I'm not saying that you should never post longer posts. However, if you can keep it below 200 characters, you'll avoid the see more, where you have to click to actually be able to read the full message. Avoiding that is essential, and I recommend trying to keep it 200 characters or less as much as possible. Frankly, people don't read as much as they used to, and so Facebook's seen that realized on their own network. Have a personality. It's essential. You want to be, I always say that even if you're a brand or you're like a nonprofit or you're Coca-Cola or whatever, you want to post like you're a person that's having a conversation with somebody else. Now, I'm not saying that you have to start using slang or you have to constantly post memes or something like that, although memes are actually pretty impactful. But you do want to seem like a person that someone can relate to, because if they can relate to what you are bringing to your page, you're more likely to have more impact and more engagement. I definitely recommend utilizing different post types. There are all kinds of different post types you can have. Like I said, there's just text posts, there's video, there's photos. You can post with GIFs. You can post carousel posts, which are linked posts that have multiple images in them. Definitely utilize different post types and see what works best for your audience. Different audiences respond to different post types. So if you just pay attention to what works and what doesn't, and that could help you decide what post types work best for your audience. Deliberately engage your audience. Now, Facebook has changed it, so if you start begging people for likes, essentially, like press like if you enjoy tacos or something like that, Facebook will make it so they recognize, their algorithm recognizes that you're gaming the system, and that won't work. But it is, ask your audience questions. Ask why your nonprofit matters to them. Ask who they're trying to help. Ask what their story is. If you ask them questions, that's a great way to generate engagement. And there's all different sorts of ways you can do it, but just figuring out what the right questions to ask and the right ways to engage with your audience for you is a great tool in terms of ensuring that Facebook, likes your content effectively. And like I said, pay attention to what works. Look at insights up on the top of your page to help determine what works and what doesn't. And lastly, advertise, advertise, advertise. Facebook is very cost effective. It's very efficient. Its targeting is incredible. Everybody's on it. You have to advertise. I recommend advertising. We're going to get into that. So about Facebook advertising, Facebook allows you to create ads to extend the reach of your posts, to promote specific items, generate leads or emails, video views, etc. It allows you to reach anyone, not just people who like your page. That's essential. You might think, why would I want to advertise if my nonprofit only has 300 people who like it? But there's 570,000 people in Alaska who could donate to your nonprofit through Pick, Click, Give or directly. And they just might not have heard of you yet. And this is a great way to reach them, to make sure that you build awareness. This isn't just Facebook. This isn't just their news feed. This allows you to, advertise on Facebook's video content, on videos. I personally love those videos that are fast forward, videos of people making a recipe or cooking something, because I love food, but sometimes it'll, show an ad in the middle of that. You can advertise on other video content. You can advertise on Facebook's mobile content or network, which includes games. You can even advertise on Instagram to reach more people. So Facebook's advertising is a lot more than just advertising on Facebook's newsfeed. So best practices for advertising on Facebook. I always recommend to promote what is already working. Facebook's algorithm If you promote a post that no one has liked, commented, or shared on, it's actually going to be significantly more expensive to reach people than it would be if people have already liked it, commented on it, and shared it. Facebook wants to enhance what is already working. So if you promote posts of yours that have already shown that they are well liked, then you're going to see a much more cost-effective spend. Don't just boost posts. I recommend actually getting into Facebook's Ads Manager to be able to advertise. Pressing the boost button on Facebook has a long history of being a little wonky and not necessarily reaching the right audience. Like sometimes somebody did a study where they're targeting a very specific audience, but for some reason their ads were showing in Bangladesh and India and things of that sort. So you just want to make sure you're reaching the right audience, and using Facebook's Ads Manager is a good way to do that. Keep image text limited. What you might not know is that Facebook has what they call the 20% rule, and the 20% rule dictates that if your image, if you have an image in your ad that is just covered in text, if it has more than 20% of the image covered in text, then they will limit the potential reach and make it more expensive for you to advertise. What they're effectively trying to do is avoid ads looking like newspaper ads and encouraging people to keep their copy in the actual post part of the ad rather than on the image. So keeping image text limited is essential to making sure your ads are cost effective, or that they're used at all. You can actually, if you have too much text on there, Facebook will just shut it down so you can't reach anybody. They used to actually not allow, if it was above 20%, they wouldn't even run your ad. Now they just throttle your potential reach. So keeping it down ensures that you're going to have a more cost-effective spend, and it also makes your ad look better, in all honest truth. Going back to the lists, you can use email, phone, and phone number lists if you have them to create custom audiences and lookalike audiences to target people better. These are really effective at ensuring that you reach the right people, and also that your spend is more cost effective. So I highly recommend it when you can. You can also use Facebook ads to develop your list with those lead generation ads I talked about earlier. And also control where your ad runs. If your audience is typically older, if you determine that your audience is a little older, Facebook will automatically run your ads on Instagram despite the fact that your audience might not be using Instagram. So when you go in there, you can either when you're running an ad, you can either set automatic placements, which means run everywhere, or you can do edit placements, and then you can control where your ad runs. So you can switch off Instagram, you can switch off the right rail ads that Facebook has, you can switch off Audience Network, things like that. So you just want to make sure you have control of where your ad runs. So pay attention to where your ads are being placed, and Facebook gives you the ability to do that. So now we're going to move on to Google Ads. Google Ads, you might not know exactly what are, but if you Googled something, for example, on the screen I have donating to a charity, the first 4 results in the Google search are all actually Google Ads. So that means that people are running Google Ads to show up at the top of search results. These are super impactful because when people are, quite often if they have questions, they're going to Google it. It's just what they do. And so this ensures that you can possibly show up at the top of results and make sure that you're top of mind when people are trying to find answers to potentially where do they want to donate to with Pick, Click, Give. This helps them figure that out. So why you should use Google Ads. When people search something on the internet, they Google it. It's become so ubiquitous that people don't even say, I search for it anymore. Like I had somebody tell me once that they Googled something on Bing, which is hilarious because Bing is a different search engine and Google is just so dominant that that's what they do. Everybody uses it, so that's why you want to do it. It's inexpensive. Driving a click to your website can be anywhere between 2 cents and $1 quite often, and even then, that impact can be huge, and it's really inexpensive. It's also effective. When you think about it, these are people who are Google searching are people who are looking for an answer. And when you present an answer to them, that means you're going to be top of mind with them. So it's like you're kind of picking at low-hanging fruit, which is really, really powerful. Also, this is, if you don't know about this, Google has a nonprofit ad grant program you can apply for, which could give you up to $10,000 a month to use for Google Ads. This is in kind, which means that you can just use it only on Google, but it's fantastic. And you may not get a full 10,000, you may not get anything, but it's certainly worth applying to because there's tremendous value, and it's a grant. It's great, and it's just for advertising. And also, you can use your lists that we talked about on Google. Lastly, it's versatile. It's not just Google Ads. It's not just on search. It's a lot more than that. So what are those other places you can advertise on Google? There's Google Ads, which are those search ads. There's Google Display Network, which is if you've been on a website and you see banner advertisements on the side or in the center of the page or whatever, that's Google's Display Network more often than not. Google's Display Network is estimated to reach 90% of online adults in the world. So if you're just trying to target specific people in Alaska, you probably have a high probability of reaching them through Google's Display Network. Those are banner ads, which means you would have to create art. But the good news is Google actually offers you tools on how to create these ads very cheaply and effectively. And it's also really straightforward. It's really just drag and drop text, and they'll create it for you, and drop images on there, et cetera, et cetera. Also, this allows you to reach YouTube. YouTube is a massive population of people, and it will allow you to, if let's say you run a TV ad, this will allow you to extend your reach at a very cost-effective manner and also reach people who are cord cutters or younger people who aren't necessarily watching TV or whatever, but it's a great audience to reach. So best practices for Google Ads, use the keyword planner tool. This is something you can actually just Google and find, but basically you can use this tool to determine how many people are searching specific keywords, like charities or nonprofits in Alaska or whatever combination of keywords you're considering using, because all Google Ads are based off of keywords and whether or not those are being searched. This is a good way for you to find what keywords are being searched so you can have a more cost-effective spend. I also recommend creating multiple copy sets. Google will use those multiple copy sets, and by copy sets I mean like effectively create multiple ads. These ads, if you have multiple ads effectively, this will allow you to have a few different varieties that people might respond to, and Google will favor the ones that people are responding to the most. So if you have multiple copy sets, this allows Google to optimize to best and more effectively reach the right people with the right copy. Optimize your ads regularly. If you have noticed that you're spending it, Google will effectively tell you if you're spending too much money on an ad set or a specific ad. So just pay attention to what, there's a little graph you can click on Google's ads that will allow you to see what the average cost per click is. If you're too high, you can optimize it backwards so it costs less, or if you're too low and you're not reaching the right bid amount, you can click on that and then you can up your bid so you can make sure your ads are being seen. But this is a good way to make sure that your ads are being shown to the right people. Use ad extensions. What ad extensions are effectively basically you're going to have your central ad, which might link to your website or wherever. These ad extensions allow you to include additional places people can click to, places people can call to, etc. So if you want people to have your phone number in case you want them to contact you, you can have that on there as an additional thing that doesn't take away from your actual ad. You can link people to different pages on your website, etc. Ad extensions are very effective, and I highly recommend using them. And then you select the search network only option. When you create a Google ad, they will use search network and display select, which means that they will create really bad display network ads that they'll serve on a small amount of search sites. Those are on a small amount of display sites. Those are very ineffective, and I highly recommend against using them. So using search network only ensures that you're only using those search ads that show up when people Google something. And lastly, I highly recommend creating a campaign-specific landing page on your website. So if you want people to know more about Pick, Click, Give and the impact it could have on your nonprofit, create a specific page on your website that you can route people to with these ads. It's it allows you to connect your ad better with the content that they're clicking on. And it's just, you don't want people to not understand why they clicked the link once they did. This allows them to have a better connection between ad and content they're delivered to. So now we're going to talk about email marketing and newsletters. So as you might not be surprised by, email is the #2 online activity behind social. 91% of Americans use email. So these statistics are just kind of forming the framework of why email is important. But anyways, 91% of Americans use email. You might think, well, that's probably, I'm 34, so I'm naturally going to use it. But do younger people use it? Yes, they actually do. There was a study done that shows that 73% of millennials actually prefer email for communications from organizations. So if you want to reach all demographics, including young people, with messaging about your nonprofit, email is actually the best way to do that. The average American spends 33 minutes a day on email, which I actually find to be surprising, but maybe that's just because I spend too much time on email. Email is mostly mobile. This is important to realize because you have to realize that people are looking at your emails on their phone, so you have to get to the point pretty quick. And in terms of return, as in actual revenue generated from email, there was a study done, and this was about small businesses like e-commerce, but it does show the value, the potential value of email. They found that email marketing actually had the highest return on investment of any type of marketing, with a 38-to-1 ROI, which means that for every dollar you spend, you get $38 back. Now, this is just one study. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single email you send out is going to generate you thousands and thousands of dollars in donations, but it does show that there is a strong impact there, and it's a worthwhile endeavor to take on. So quick, the advantages of email. Everyone uses it, as we established. They use it a lot, as we established. When they use it, they generally engage with what is in the email. That's important because a lot, I love social media, but if you ever watch somebody looking at Instagram, a lot of times they're kind of blindly clicking through, they're just swiping through what's happening on the page. They're not really interacting on a deep level. But one of the amazing things about email is you can actually track click-through rates, you can track and see what the response is, and emails generally have one of the stronger click-through rates and just general brand impact out of any type of marketing you can have. So that's essential. You don't want just people to see it. You want them to engage with it, and that's what email does. It often works off of lists you already have. So the nice thing about all these things we're talking about is if you start building your list, you can use it for email, you can use it for Facebook, you can use it for Google to better impact your nonprofit and the potential donations you could get. And like I said, it generates a huge return. So you might be wondering, why wouldn't I do this? This is amazing. There are disadvantages. Before you can take advantage of the benefits of email marketing, it's possible you'll have to spend time and money. The reason for that is because you have to build your list. And it's going to take time to do that if you don't have one already. And you really should be building your list at all times. You should always be trying to generate supporters and get them to share their information with you so you can better reach them. So if you don't have a list, it's going to be a bit before you can start using this, but the value is there. You have to generate your own audience, like I said. And building up an email marketing list is not always easy, but there are ways to do that. Basically, I think I'm going to address that. No, I guess I don't. But largely speaking, I think we already covered this. It was under the building lists slide. But effectively, the ways you want to do that is making sure that you have obvious links on your website to join your email list, running Facebook ads, sharing it on social media on the regular so people can sign up, things like that. So best practices for email marketing in terms of the actual messaging you have on your email. Use an email service. MailChimp is my personal favorite because it's free up into, I believe, 2,000 or 5,000 total subscribers. So the average nonprofit probably won't ever need to pay for it. Some people use Constant Contact because they prefer it, but it does cost money once you reach it. I think you get 1 month free. So I recommend MailChimp. Shorten your subject lines. The longer your subject line, There's actually a direct relationship between the length of your subject line and whether or not people will click your ads. If you have a short, punchy subject line that gets the point across quickly, you're more likely to have a person open your email. So keep those short. Keep a schedule. You want people to know when your emails are going to come out and expect it and want to engage with it. So whether that means weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or whatever, just make sure you stick to that and know people will be waiting for it effectively. Focus your newsletters. A lot of times with email newsletters, people try to do everything in one newsletter, but I recommend having one key message and then having some items beneath it that speak to what you're trying to do in a broader sense. But really focusing it on one key item each newsletter is essential. Think visually. People aren't going to open your newsletters if they look there and it just is ugly or it's hard to read or whatever. So think about how you would want to read an email and think about what emails work for you and then try to not copy that, but match that ease of read. That's essential. And then include calls to action, links to the Pick, Click, Give website, links to your website, links to where people can learn more about what you offer. You want to have, and also, of course, suggesting people when they sign up for the PFD that they Pick, Click, Give, and share with you. Those calls to action are essential because people, I don't know, in a weird way, like there was a study done effectively where ads on the internet, if they have a button effectively telling people what to do, generate far more clicks than one that just doesn't. And so you need sometimes to guide people to where you want them to learn from what you have to offer. So including calls to action is essential to that. And then always test before sending. I always recommend sending a test email both, looking at your test email both on your desktop and on your mobile phone before sending it, partially because I'm paranoid, but also because if you do that, it ensures that you're less likely to have mistakes in your email itself. And you don't want mistakes because if a person has a bad experience, they're just not going to come back to something, and you want people to keep opening your emails. So to close, I just want to look back on everything we've talked about and on how you can maximize your online and social media efforts. Step one, figure out who your audience is. That's essential. You want to know who the right people for you to reach are, what your demographics you're looking at are, where they are, etc. So figuring that out is hugely important. Step two, build lists. Once you know who your audience is, you want to start building up lists that help you reach those people easily or more easily. And step three, don't try and do everything. If you try to do everything, you're just going to do a lot of things poorly. Do a few things well. I recommended Facebook, Google Ads, and email marketing, but that might not be right for you. You have to find out what's the best audience for you, what sometimes it comes down to what you use best. I mean, if you're better at Instagram and if you create more compelling Instagram content, maybe that's for you. If it's Pinterest, maybe that's for you. It's really just finding out what works best for your audience and yourself as a person running a nonprofit, because you don't have all the time in the world. You don't have all the money in the world. So you want to make sure you're not wasting either of those things. That's it. Any questions?
Hi, David. This is Marge at the Lung Association, and I have a couple questions on Facebook marketing for you.
Sure.
Do you have a recommended length on video?
Oh, that's a very common question. So Facebook has a few varieties of video that they offer. They have these in-stream ads that show in the middle of videos. Those are 60, 15 seconds. They have the regular ads, which hilariously you can actually run an ad with up to 2 hours of video. I don't know why you would ever do that, but some people suggest keeping it 15 seconds or less. Personally, I suggest between 15 to 30 seconds, but if you can't get your messaging across in that length of time and you think you can make a compelling 1 to 2 minute video, whatever the best version of your video is will generate impact. I've watched 15-minute videos on Facebook because it was compelling. As long as whatever you're creating is compelling, it can be whatever length, but the sweet spot really is around 30 seconds.
Great. And what about when you upload a custom audience list, is there a recommended length? Is it better to have your A list that has only 35 names on it, or is it better to have a list of 500?
Bigger the better, generally speaking. But at the same time, what I often do is if I have different, you can segment lists. So if you have like a master list that has everybody, but then you have smaller lists that you've split up in a different way, you can have those, and you can have unlimited custom audiences. So it's really just determined by what you're trying to do. But I would recommend keeping it bigger and then using Facebook's own advertising tools to reduce your audience by changing demographics and locations and et cetera.
Gotcha. And then early on, you mentioned looking at Facebook audience with a little hamburger icon, and I haven't seen that. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. Maybe what I can do actually is I can route some follow-up material, because there are a lot of different versions of Facebook. Facebook is weirdly constantly using about 10,000 different versions of Facebook across the world. So not every version is going to look exactly the same. Some people use Business Manager, some people don't. But there are other ways you can reach that audience, like the Audiences tab. So let me get back to you on how you would do that universally, and we can get back to you on that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, David, this is Sophia. I'm just going to hop in here and remind everyone that we are going to ask everyone to use the chat box so that we can make sure that we are getting through all these questions. David, we do have a few that people have asked throughout the presentation that I'm going to kind of shoot at you. So the first one is from Melanie, and she's wondering, do you have to input an email or phone number list into Facebook to use it? And I think this is in reference to the list, so maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by use it, but to be able to use the custom audiences, you'll have to do one of two things. You can either literally copy and paste a phone number list or an email list into Facebook and into the custom audiences, and you can create an audience that way, or you can upload an Excel file in CSV format, like comma delimited, and then it will automatically read from that, and then you'll create your list. So you do have to do that if you want to use these audiences.
And we have one more question from Melanie, and I do have a thought on this one, but David, as it's geared towards you, I'd love to give you a shot at it first. What is the best practice to increase our contributions without competing with our neighbors? In this scenario, lots of nonprofits are all looking for support.
Actually, Sophia, do you want to take that one first? Because I have thoughts on it, but I want to think about it.
Sure. So I think the answer to this one is a little less technical or about technology and more just about the way that you are communicating with your donors. Obviously, we do have a lot of nonprofits in Alaska who are always, looking to engage more donors, looking for more support. And I would just caution against looking at it in a pie mentality with the thought that, well, if we get $25, somebody else isn't. The way that we really want to make sure we're using the tips and tricks that David is giving us is to ensure that we are letting potential donors know about the wonderful work that nonprofits are doing. And, the donors have the discretion. They will decide what is appealing to them, what's not, what, they really want to put their resources towards. So rather than thinking about it in terms of, am I competing with my neighbor, I think it's really more a sense of we're doing something that's really wonderful, and we want to make sure that any Alaskans who are out there who might be searching for more information by using our communications and marketing, we're making sure that that information is available to them. And then that person, they will make the choice about where they want to give to or how much they want to support. But, I think what we've found is a lot of times donors, the more engaged they are, the more generosity they find in their hearts to share. So I would just caution against thinking of it as competing and just giving Alaskans really wonderful information about what's out there. Yeah,
and to, I agree with everything you just said, and there's no real technical way you can avoid that or anything like that. It's all about building awareness, and once the person knows about you and knows about other nonprofits, it's ultimately up to them. It's just all you can do is do the best you can for your own nonprofit. I know it's a kind of a terrible thing to say, but at the same time, you're encouraging people to care more about giving, and that's essential. But there's no real technical way to avoid what you're talking about. Sorry.
No, that's great. And we have some more questions coming in.
Sure.
So here's one from Kari. Can Google Ads direct to a Facebook page? And this is in relation to if you don't have a website, does it still make sense to use Google Ads?
So you actually can link Google Ads to pretty much anywhere. If you don't have a website, it might make a little bit less sense to use Google Ads. However, I will note that you can still use Google Ads for YouTube and various other things. But you can link to your Facebook page and drive people there. Google has less issues with linking to Facebook than Facebook has with linking to Google, so it would be less of a problem.
Great. And we do have some more questions about Facebook. Do you recommend auto cross-posting, and are hashtags effective on Facebook?
Yeah, so I see that one. So cross-posting, I'm notorious. I'm like famous for how much I'm not fond of cross-posting, just because every outlet is so different. So like I know people who run social media and they have a post on Facebook that automatically goes up on Instagram, and it also goes up on Twitter. And the problem is each of these outlets operate differently and they render differently. So generally speaking, I don't recommend it. However, when it comes to Instagram and Facebook, that's the one that it's okay, because Facebook owns Instagram and Facebook is constantly looking to emphasize Instagram. So when you post on Instagram and then automatically post it to Facebook, it's actually less of an issue because Facebook loves that and their algorithm like eats it up effectively. So if you are going Instagram to Facebook or Facebook to Instagram, I think that's fine. But really any other direction, I don't recommend it. And as far as hashtags are concerned, I don't believe hashtags are effective on Facebook. There haven't been extensive studies on the effectiveness of hashtags and their effectiveness on Facebook. But I think part of the reason for that is because they've just never really caught on Facebook. Facebook, or the hashtags are mostly the domain of Instagram and Twitter, and they're very effective there, but they're not really heavily used on Facebook. And like that's the key to all of this, is like getting people to adopt them. This isn't what you're asking about, but to a certain degree, Facebook's seeing the same thing with their stories right now, in that they're seeing a very slow adoption rate of stories, which are like effectively people sharing their story over a 24-hour period in one thread, because people are using them so heavily on Instagram that people just like, you don't want to share your story on two different networks, and so they're just not doing it on Facebook. So so hashtags not really effective on Facebook.
And we are getting close to the end of our time, but we do have a couple more questions if anyone else wants to type one into the chat. We have one here. What about people who unsubscribe from your list in MailChimp?
So as a person who actually has a personal newsletter, it makes me very sad every time somebody unsubscribes from my newsletter. However, largely when somebody unsubscribes from your newsletter, there's not much you can really do to get them back. You could reach out to them directly, but I don't advise it because it's kind of inherently adversarial. And so largely it's just sometimes people unsubscribe, and it may not have anything to do with the content you're doing or anything like that. Some people have, there's like a service called unroll.me where you just press a button and it unenrolls your email from every single newsletter they're on. They don't even think about it. It seems like they're specifically saying they don't like your content, but it may have nothing to do with that. And so a lot of times it's people just cutting back the clutter in their own email inboxes. So I don't know if that answers your question, but actually, Sophia, we just got a question about email I want to address really quick. Is that okay?
Sure.
So the question from Susan Dixon is, how often is too often to email your list? I actually recommend, a lot of times you can get a feel for how people respond to. I definitely recommend paying attention to your open rate and your click-through rate. And your open rate will drop if you're emailing too frequently. However, I recommend, the easy answer is as often as you have worthwhile content to share, but I recommend weekly, personally. Maybe bi-weekly if you feel like that's too much, but I feel like monthly can sometimes seem like there's too much of a gap between when you initially email and the next time. And sometimes people just forget about it and then they just kind of stop caring. So weekly is a good balance between staying top of mind and not overburdening people with messaging. So let's see, I think we got another email one. So it says, Melanie Dufour asked, should you tell people to check their promotion or other mailbox if emails are not going to primary email box? Yes. Sometimes your emails will fall into one of Gmail's promotions or social categories, or it will go into your spam. I definitely recommend reaching out to people if it seems like you could always mention it in one of your email newsletters. Then there's one of the tricky parts of if it's already going into their promotions or their other mailboxes, how do they see it if they're not reading it because it's in there? But I would definitely make sure that when people sign up for your newsletter, they're going to get a message saying that, you've signed up for your, this email newsletter. Thank you. You can include a message in there saying, and make sure to whitelist or to basically route this, email address onto your main inbox. You can do that in your Gmail controls or a lot of other Gmail or email platform settings. I don't know how to do that in every single one, but I know you can whitelist emails, and that's a good recommendation to do, and it's easy enough to put in that message. And so we have one more question from Pat Harris. How can we know how effective Facebook or Google ads are? That is the million-dollar question. It really depends on the type of ad, and given that you're looking to generate donations, especially in this regard, specifically for Pick, Like, Give, it can take time. Largely speaking, there's a few key metrics you can look at. If you're trying to generate clicks to your website from Google Ads, for example, click-through rate, and then and then also just cost per click are keys. So paying attention to that, a good click-through rate on a Google ad can be as low as 0.1, which doesn't seem like that much, but at the same time, there's just so much out there, it can be really difficult. And then the cost per click, if you can stay under $1 quite often, it's actually really effective. But then one thing I actually recommend doing too is if you are doing Google Ads and you do have a website, make sure you have Google Analytics set up and connect your Google Ads with Analytics, because then you can track and see if people are actually looking around on your site after they click on the ad or if they're just leaving immediately. Because that will allow you to know whether or not people are these people care, whether or not they're trying to learn more. So that's a good way to do it. With Facebook, it really depends on the type. With video view ads, which are increasingly popular, you want to look at metrics like how long they watched. You can see how long they viewed your video, either in a percentage or in a total length of time. You can look at the click-through rates. You can look at impressions. You can look at reach. The key though is figuring out what you're trying to do and then matching the metric to it. So if you're trying to drive clicks, you want to look at click-through rate. If you're trying to drive video views, look at total views, but also look at how long people are viewing. If you're trying to get people to sign up for your email newsletter on Facebook, how often, how many people you actually got signed up for it, and how much it costs per person added on your email. For email newsletters, basically those lead generation ads, I think anything less than $2 is a win. And so, but the problem is there's no real blanket answer on how much these metrics should be, because it all really depends on how narrowly you're targeting and how big your overall audience is. So I know it's an imperfect answer, but it's just, there's no one answer.
Great. Well, thank you so much, David. That actually brings us to the end of our time. So we will have a copy of this webinar up probably within the next week. We'll have that up to the toolkit. Everything that you see there, the graphics, things like that, have been created with the help from Brilliant Media, where David works. So big thank you to not only David, but to Brilliant for that as well. If you do have any questions, you can always email me, and I will make sure that I work with David to get those answered. David, it sounded like there might be a little bit of follow-up information.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that Marge was connected with how she can reach the audience insights. So I will gather that, and I'll write it on to you, Sophia.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, David. We're already seeing in the comment boxes, people were really excited to hear what you had to say, and thank you so much. It was very helpful.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for listening.